So you've done a Berkman assessment, and now all of a sudden you're red and green and yellow. What does it all mean? So let me just give you a quick overview of the four different colors on the Berkman and how to interpret them, why they're important in teams. So I like to start with talking about the blue. So blue on Berkman is about people who are very much in the subjective world of what could be. They have a people focus, a more abstract, hypothetical, future oriented look at the world. Blues tend to think about what could be, and they bring so much to the equation. So they bring a lot of creativity. They're very strategic. They have a real sensory flair. Don't get them started in a conversation about brand. They'll be going all day. So we get so much wonderful value from that blue. Blues are always asking the why questions. All right. Now, the next color on the Berkman would be a yellow. And yellow, like blue, yellow is focused kind of in their heads. They're in this world of their own inner thoughts, as opposed, they're more introverts, less extroverts. But unlike blues, who are very much focused on the abstract and the future, the yellows are focused on the concrete and the tangible and what is in the world. Yellows are so invested in predictability and order and stability and fairness. And they're amazing in our team because they take the blues vision and they turn it into a plan. And so, what the yellows are interested in is answering all those how questions. The blues are all about why, why does the world work this way? But the yellows want to know how. How do I harness that? How do I make it work? The next color is green. Now, greens are similar to blues in that they're focused in that future oriented, people focused, hypothetical world, but they are much more extroverted. They are much more likely to go and directly interact with the world. And they are fantastic at thinking about what could things be? Let's change, let's evolve, let's influence and champion. They're great storytellers, they're great coaches. They're really invested in those interpersonal relationships. And as you can probably guess, their question is who? Who have I got to call? Who would be helpful here? Who's impacted? So that wonderful green energy on a team makes us better at stakeholder management, and figuring out how a change or a decision is going to impact people. We love to have that on a team. And finally, the red. So we're going to stay up in the top of the Berkman grid, with a very hands-on, extroverted kind of focus. But now, instead of that future oriented, people oriented, we're going to shift the focus to the here and now and the task and what needs to get done. And reds are fantastic for expediting things, making it happen. They're so practical and logical. There's no BS with a red. They just want to say, what do we got to do? And that's their question. What next? So we get a lot of energy from having reds on a team. Now, as you've listened, you've probably realized that a great team needs all of these things. Great teams need the blue energy, the blue contribution, because it's really strategic. It makes sure that we're anticipating what's coming in the world, paying attention to the right things. But we also need the yellow because a vision is nothing without a plan. So we need to have the yellow who says, okay, can you define what you mean by that? Or what would we need to do to make that happen? Or how do we nail it and scale it? The yellow brings that. But if we have the most amazing blue and yellow, an amazing vision and a great plan, but we haven't brought anyone along, oh, we're completely missing the boat. We need the greens to mobilize people, to win their hearts and minds, to get them to come along on the trip. And finally, all that's great. But if we don't have anybody focused on, are we getting there? Are we doing it? That kind of accountability and expediting and execution of a red. So we need all of these different styles on a great team. And if your team is missing any one of those styles, you will likely see risks and even dysfunction tied to what's missing. One last thought. The other thing is, we don't necessarily need all of these different styles at once. So when we're in the early phases of a project, that blue energy, which is really about diverging and thinking about what's possible and changing your mind and iterating, that's great early. But once you've actually made a call, those people who keep iterating or, but what about, but, well, they can make it really hard for you to be decisive and move ahead. So we want that blue energy early, but we want it to trail off a bit. But similarly, if reds get going too soon in the process, they shut a lot of things down. They're like, yep, sounds good, let's go. And that can increase risk as well. Maybe there's a rush to judgment or you're moving too quickly. So we want these different styles, but we want them, really at the right time. Be deliberate about how and when you contribute, and then you will have an incredibly effective team. All right, want another hot tip on how to make your team more effective? Check this out.